And welcome back to Meeting of the Minds. Today I'm here with the great Scott Doerr, high school nemesis. always a great friend. This man is a sales legend. He's a wrestling legend, former Duke University wrestler, and just one of my favorite people. Scott, welcome to the show.
Thank you. I appreciate you having me. Yeah, one-time enemy, long-time friend. So
that's right.
Happy to be here.
Absolutely. So we're going to take it from the top. We'll go from how wrestling, your long wrestling career, from youth wrestling at the famous South Plainfield High School, New Jersey, a long-standing legacy over there. You're a part of that. Your brother's a part of that. Then you went on through, obviously, high school, multiple-time state place winner, multiple-time different tournament champ, and then going on to college, wrestling, Duke University, how wrestling has shaped you, then how Duke's shaped you, and then now into your sales career. So let's take it from the top. Let's go with wrestling.
5 years old. My dad brought me to wrestling practice and said, if you didn't like it here, you don't have to continue doing it. I came home from practice, said, Dad, I don't like it. And I started my 17-year wrestling career. So that's a true story. So I'm very grateful that my parents obviously pushed me, through adversity and whatnot from a very, very young age. And if we want to even call wrestling at the age of 5, it's glorified daycare down there, right? I think they just wanted us to get the energy out. But, starting at that age, one of the best things that happened, honestly, Gene, was meeting some of the people that I'm still friends with to this day, and maybe we're not as close as we were when we were growing up around the block. But some of my childhood friends, I'm still, I can still pick up the phone and call them today, and we'll pick up as if we just played a game of stickball out in the driveway. So it's really, really great getting involved in a youth sport like that at such a young age and sticking with it all the way through, because it builds a sense of camaraderie and friendship all the way through. Look, South Plainfield is, it's notorious within the state of New Jersey. I can tell you down here in the state of North Carolina, not a lot of people know what South Plainfield wrestling is all about, but I do not hesitate to tell them. So, try to get them on board and how we do things. But it's really great, being a part of such a strong traditional culture growing up. Basically the blueprint was already laid out for you for how to be successful, and that is to come in, work hard, focus, and if you do all those things, you'll turn out okay. They're not guaranteeing any sort of championships, but they do guarantee that you will, acquire skill sets that you'll carry with you throughout your entire life, and that's absolutely been the case. That's even going back to recreation. Back when you and I first met, way back when, right? We may not have towed the line together at that time just because of different weight classes, but you know the drill. Growing up in New Jersey, wrestling that's life. So, fast forward into high school, the same team, the 14 weight class lineup, those same 14 guys were the same 14 guys that I was scrapping with when I was 5, 6, 7 years old, and I can read off the list of the guys, but I'm going to be sure to leave some off. So I'm going to refrain from doing so. But some guys that I just absolutely love to this day, and they come in all different shapes and sizes. And that's the best part, right? This sport knows no metrics that bounds anybody within, it doesn't restrict anybody from wrestling. You can be tall, you can be short, you can be fat, you can be skinny, you can be strong, you can be lean. You can be smart, you can be less than smart, and you can still compete in this thing depending on where your focus is, where your drive is, and whatnot. And that's honestly one of the reasons why I love it. You look at my brother and you look at myself, and you see two very polarizing physiques. My brother was wrestled at Bucknell, and he's training to go to the United States Military Academy. I'm not. My brother to this day, at the age of 40, can rip off 25 pull-ups. He's probably going to call me and say, you should have said 30, but, it's just really funny how wrestling kind of shapes you and carries you through your entire life. But South Plainfield High School was unique because, I'm down here in North Carolina. I'm an assistant coach voluntarily at Cardinal Gibbons High School. down here, which when I started with the team, we had 1 win. Last year, we were in the 4A state finals and should have been 4A state champs. We fell short of that goal, and I'm sure it's going to be a lesson that we're going to learn going into this year if this season does indeed happen. But you know, what's interesting is down here, we have a massive JV program. South Plainfield High School, I don't know if you remember, Gene, you come over to our room, there's 14 weight classes, there's 20 guys on the team. You know, there isn't really a strong JV lineup because the practices were 3 hours long. We had a 30-second while you're jogging, grab a half a Dixie cup of water intermission in the middle. And doing that for 4 years, I remember an old teammate of mine, Evie Demarest, is one of my favorite people I grew up wrestling with. He ended up going into the Army. And I remember him coming back and saying that, you know, Bill Pavlak, our head coach back then, Bill Pavlak made it so that the Army was easy. You know, I went through 4 years at South Plainfield practices, made the Army easy. That tells you everything you need to know, you know. And we had always been this just grinding, just grueling team where it would be difficult to beat us in the third period because our gas tank is enormous. One thing that we absolutely lacked was just pure technique. And it really, you know, we had Steve Giordano, your head coach in high school. You know, we had Kevin McCann, who was my assistant coach in high school. Those guys were kind of the pioneers of the state champs, individual state champs at South Plainfield. It really wasn't until, you know, so to speak, like my brother Tommy's era, where they came in and they said, okay, well, we want to put South Plainfield on the map. You know, we want to take a couple of guys and start going to these extra clubs, whether it be Ernie Monaco at Edge, Wally Muhammad at Peak, and just start going through these programs and really get our technique down and really commit to this thing. And, you know, Tommy's whole crew came up and they reached bounds that we never even knew existed. They won the first sectional title. We didn't even know what a sectional title was, you know. Then, you know, my crew came up and I was blessed to be under a team that had leadership that, again, I'm reflecting on them now. I'm absolutely impressed that the guys on my team that took the youth on this team, and like you can look at that roster and you'll see about 10 Division I wrestlers. On that one South Plainfield team was a small division, what, Group 2 school in the middle of nowhere, New Jersey, you know, it's amazing. But, you know, the leadership on the team from the seniors and the coaches and whatnot to get a state title out of that team is miraculous. And I'm proud to say that I'm a part of that team. I'm proud to say that I wrestled on those teams and those guys are my friends. But I mean, we're talking glory days right now, right? So that springboards you into the next phase of your life. And it's honestly, Gene, this is one thing that I've learned throughout life is that every single stage of your life just springboards you to the next one. And I'm 36. You're 36. I didn't want to tell everybody, but here we are. Maybe we're going to be enemies again by the end of the phone call. I don't know. But we're 36 years old. When we were 26, we knew half of what we knew now. And when we're 46, we're going to know twice as much as what we know now. So I like to think that we know a pretty good amount of what goes on in life, but we never stop learning. You never stop progressing. And, you know, that little bit at South Plainfield High School gave me a good foundation of toughness, of grit, of perseverance. I'd give you Wally Muhammad's 5 keys to success, but I'll get a phone call from him about that later too. But, you know, it just gives you that foundation of how to be successful. And if you put your mind to something and you dedicate yourself to something, I mean, look at your business, for instance. I mean, you've put your blinders on and you just focus on exactly what you want to do and how to do it. And gosh dang it, I'm stinking impressed with everything that you've done. You know, it's amazing. But that gets formulated on you when you're a kid, and then when you're an adolescent, when you're in high school. So by the time I got to college, you know, I'll be the first to admit, you know, Claire Anderson is the reason why I went to Duke University. I fell in love with him when I went down to a summer camp, went on a recruiting trip. I didn't even know I didn't know Duke was a good school, bad school. You know, and my dad's like, Scott, every school is a good school if you make it a good school. I'm like, cool. Well, Duke's in North Carolina, and the weather's nice down there. So Claire Anderson was wonderful. I went down there, come to find out the academic integrity at Duke is much higher than other places. And I went from being, very successful in the classroom at South Plainfield to I'm going to have to scrape pretty deep within myself, graduate in 4 years, to which my mother and father told me, you have 4 years to get out of college. And I did, hallelujah. But getting into Duke, wrestling at Duke was awesome. Again, I met a whole other slew of friends from different parts of the country that had so much in common with myself that, I'm on text threads with them now. And, whether they're from Virginia, whether they're from Pennsylvania, North Carolina, they're wonderful people. And so that springboarded me into that phase of life. And I went to Duke with the mindset of I am going to get my degree. I'm going to set myself up for a long career. And I am, should I have focused more on becoming an NCAA champ, becoming an ACC champ? Look, that is one of the biggest regrets I have in my life, is not focusing more on athletic achievements in college. And, you want to talk about developing into today and who you are today. Those are one of the small details that you look back on life and it's like, you know what, I don't get a second chance at that. And if I could talk to kids in college now, I would tell them, take the shots that you need to take early on, because you may not get another shot. I'm not going to be cheesy and equate to wrestling saying, you may only get one single leg attack for the whole match, because he may close up on his defense after that, right? So I didn't take that shot, and I get to live with that. But you know what? It's part of my story. It's part of who has made me into the salesman that I am today, because getting back to your original point, heck, if I got a customer and I see that they're emotionally open to receive a message from me and I get scared, I just missed that shot, just like I missed that shot in college, So I try to take and extrapolate all those lessons that I have growing up from wrestling and put it into my business mind, because there is a lot of correlation between the two. Again, talking about customers, talking about your team, heck. So just to give you a little backstory, and I know I'm rambling here, so you better stop me if it, okay. So I'm rambling here. So I started with St. Jude Medical back in June of 2006, fresh out of college. And I didn't know what the heck a pacemaker was. I didn't know anything about heart surgery. But I knew, I consulted a couple people and they said, hey, Scott, this is a good job. You might want to take it. So I took it. And I've been in that job this is now my 15th year. And St. Jude Medical got acquired by Abbott Laboratories. And I'm learning the ins and outs of just these major global corporations. I mean, Abbott is the largest healthcare company in the world, so they say, to which I have to believe them because they're my employer. But gosh, dang it. Here I am, just some guy from South Plainfield, New Jersey, again, a map dot, that gets to work for Abbott Laboratories in the Raleigh-Durham area, managing a tremendous business at world-renowned health institutions. And sometimes I sit back and I'm like, how the heck did I even get here? But so I started in 2006. I started up in New York. From New York, I moved down to Georgia. From Georgia, I moved to Richmond, Virginia. From Richmond, Virginia, I moved to Durham, North Carolina. And you may say, why are you bouncing around so much? And it's opportunities. It's opportunities. It's also mistakes. So from New York, I was looking for opportunities, bigger opportunities, better opportunities. I went down to Georgia, same thing, bigger and better opportunities. Went to Virginia, fell flat on my face in Virginia. Absolutely flat on my face. I made a huge mistake, had to pay the price for it. And I said, you know what? I got to get myself back up. And my best friend at the time, my college roommate, was a tennis player at college. He was a coach at Duke. Opening came up at Duke for my job at Duke, where my best friend was. So, you know, what better place than go back to where it all began with my college career here and go back to Duke. And that was 2012. And licked my wounds and said, you know what, I'm drawing a line in the sand right here. And this is where the rebuild begins. And built myself back up. And I have not only re-achieved the success that I had before, I have exceeded that. And I've set myself up for a trajectory that I hope has no ceiling. So, you know, talking about all those different places that I've worked, I've interacted with so many different teams. And each team, I'd like to say that I could say each team was very good. It wasn't. It wasn't. And I'm not naming names, and I'm not telling you which one was good and which one was bad. But I can tell you every single person I've worked with, I've either learned what to do from them or I've learned what not to do from them. And, you know, talking about, you know, it kind of equates it to guys that we used to bang heads with in the wrestling room, right? You see some guys slacking off in practice and you're like, all right, I'm not going to be that guy. Or, you know what? Maybe I need to work out with that guy because maybe he needs me more than I need him right now. 100%, I'm telling you, there are people I work with today that I need them more than they need me. And there are people I work with today that they need me more than I need them, right? So the other way around. And when you have people relying on one another on the same team, that's when synergy happens, that's when cohesion happens, and that's when that bond happens, and it ends up causing your team to explode. So I guess that's a truncated version of how I've gotten here. There are definitely lessons within those segments of my life that I've learned to help me in my career. One of the best things I've heard, and I'm not the biggest, it surprises people. So, but I'm not the biggest Duke basketball fan, in part because, well, when we were wrestling in college, we had Carolina at home and everybody's out in tents in the freezing cold and the snow. And we came out with the megaphone and said, hey, you guys want to come into Cameron Indoor and watch us take on our arch rivals? And we got about 5 people to come in from the freezing cold. So I said, you know what? You guys go watch your basketball. So I had a lot of animosity, Gene, I'm telling you. But I've forgiven them. And there's a gentleman by the name of J.J. Riddick. You may have heard of him. And we may have had this conversation before already, but he talks about, he got called back to do, and you can find this on YouTube, but he got called back to do a little bit with the men's and the women's basketball team at Duke. And they talk about, you know, what drives you, you know, you're in your, you know, 10th year in the NBA, what's driving you to be better? What's driving you to be better? And he talks about how the feeling to always feel like you are becoming and never feel like you've arrived. And he talks about how if there's anybody on planet Earth that should feel like they've arrived, it would be the gold medal winning coach Mike Krzyzewski of the Duke men's basketball team and the United States men's basketball team. But even that guy, he still feels like he's becoming, you know, even though he's in his 70s, he feels like he's becoming. And who am I? Scott Doerr, the very unpolished 36-year-old from South Plainfield, New Jersey. Here I am. Who am I to think that I've arrived anywhere? You know, I have so much more left to learn, so much more left to give, to develop. I'm thinking about, you know, making jumps in my career, not, you know, laterally, but vertically. And quite frankly, Gene, I've got so much work to do where I am that I need to keep becoming who I am now and then make that next jump to become who I am later. And it's just incessant work on what am I doing every day? What am I thinking about every day? And honestly, that's where you come in, dude, which is why I'm really glad that you took that time to work with our team, because from that, we've had separate meetings talking about mindset. It has ignited a fire amongst my team that I can pick up the phone and call them. You don't know this, so I'm going to break some news to you. So I had everybody on the team develop their own predator spirit. So if you had a predator spirit within you, that you could identify with, who would you be? And I had them work on this for 2 weeks, and then I had to present it. I learned so much about my team just because of the animals that they chose. And some of them I laughed at, and to which I apologize later. But like, look, it's amazing what you learn about somebody. I mean, I got people picking a chameleon. I've got people picking a red fox. I'm like, wow, that is very specific. I had one, a Belgian Malinois. Had to Google that one. Okay, that's the type of dog. For those playing at home, I didn't know that. You know, just learning about the mindset of the people on my team, and if they literally could turn themselves into an animal as their predator spirit, who would they be? And they're picking off the wall things, you know. But that's all because of you, and that is all attributed to the development of our minds, of our culture, of the team. And I want that synergy. I want that culture. I want that cohesion amongst everybody on the team. And it's constantly a work in progress. So that's my ramble for right now. I'm going to sip the coffee while you talk.
Absolutely. No, that makes a lot of sense, right? There's that rule in life that you're either growing or you're dying. A person, a business, a flower, it has everything to do with, are you content with where you're at, or are you trying to get better? So it's never being content, always growing.
Yeah.
Get your feedback now. What would you say are some of the qualities? I know you already hit on a lot of this, but some of the qualities that you would say make a champion. If you were mentoring someone, they're entering into a sales career, they're going into business, what are the qualities you say they need to have? And what are some of the biggest mistakes, maybe mental mistakes that they make that you'd have them avoid?
Yeah. Man, again, I'm not going to quote Wally Muhammad's 5 Keys to Success here, although I do have it up in my son's bedroom. You know, perseverance is probably one of the biggest ones to me. We are going to get hit, and again, I'm a movie quote guy, so I'm not going to quote the Rocky Balboa stuff, but we get hit with so much junk, not only in our professional worlds, in our personal lives, in just daily living. You know, you walk outside, especially nowadays, and, you know, pandemic aside, you've got all the racial tensions, you have the socioeconomic tensions, you have the presidential tensions, you have just everything is so tense. And we get hit with so much junk in this world that we have got to push through. If you want to get done what you need to get done in this world, you got to push through. And you need to push through with compassion. You need to push through with empathy and understand that other people are going through things in this world that you can't even imagine. So when you're trying to achieve your goal, don't step on the person next to you. Go through it with them and say, hey, look, I understand you got this going on. I'm trying to get here. You're trying to get there. Let's both get where we want to go. But do not let anyone hold you back of what you need to get done. And it's very easy. And I am so guilty of this, of just sacrificing my own betterment for other people. And while that's, you know, okay to say, I guess, and, you know, it's really not, because being that selfless ends up putting you at the back of the list. And what do we always say? Somebody's laying on their deathbed. They don't sit there and say, well, you know, I'm really glad I didn't take that shot against Gene Zanetti in the county finals, you know, which we all know how that would have turned out. But
I didn't have great defense. Maybe you should have taken the shot. That's the mentality. You got to keep your best defense is just having a good offense, which is partially true. But if you can't defend your legs, that's not good either.
That's right.
Anyway.
So that's the positive. I think persistence is one of the biggest things that you need to be a champion in not just life, but sales. But on the back end of that is the biggest, I guess, negative thing that you need to have, if it does have a negative connotation, is forgiveness. You need to not only forgive those around you for their transgressions, you need to forgive yourself. You need to forgive yourself for the mistakes, like I'm talking about my own, talking about, you know, not taking my collegiate career as seriously as I possibly could have, you know, and I could sit back and list the excuses, but guess what? It does no good. I need to forgive myself for you to say, you know what, I screwed that up. Here's how I'm going to get better. And here's how I'm not going to miss that opportunity again. And like I said, it's my 15th year in this gig. I have made so many mistakes with doctors, with nurses, with patients. Fortunately, none of them fatal. But I can tell you, I've made mistakes that have cost me business. Now, I've done things that have won me business, and fortunately, I think that there are more wins than losses. Otherwise, I wouldn't have this job for 15 years. But I can tell you, I have absolutely made mistakes that have cost me business. And I've worked with some very senior people that would be like, Scott, you knucklehead, why'd you do that? I told you not to do that. Well, Gina, I'll text you my mom's phone number afterwards. She'll tell you I haven't listened to her for 36 years, you know? So I need to learn through experience, and I need to learn through, you know, just the mistakes that I make. But and I tell some of the young guys on my team now this, look, you're gonna mess up. You have to forgive yourself of those mistakes, because I forgive you, but that does no good if you don't forgive yourself. Because you can sit there and lament and lament and lament, and it wears on you. You get more critical of yourself. Your customers see it, and they'll say, that guy's a pretty negative person. I don't really want to be around them. I don't want to give them my business. So those are my two big hot topics.
Excellent.
Yeah.
The big mental mistakes, you would say.
Yeah.
Some of those things that you would say that coming up, just common mistakes that people tend to make.
Yeah, I mean, you talking about like with clients and customers, or?
Yeah, like maybe in terms of maybe fear of rejection, focusing maybe too much on the outcome.
So that's it. And, you know, I'll give you an example. There was a physician at one of my accounts right now that, you know, 5 years ago, my company at the time, St. Jude, before it got acquired, had some quality issues. And, you know, for the first, 10 years of my career, 8 years of my career, my company was the absolute pioneer in innovation. It was the hot thing on the block. Everybody wanted a piece of it. It was like, what awesome is coming out from St. Jude? We were blowing away the stalwarts of the industry and really taking market share because we had the coolest stuff coming out. Then, you know, 2015 hit, and 2015, 2016, and yeah, we had some quality issues come up, and I'm not going to get into the reasons, but what I learned is the nature of myself when I'm interacting with these customers, that it's easy to interact with a doctor when everything's going great. Your true colors come out when everything is not going great, and you have to deal with issues, and not just one issue. Say, hey, doc, you know, we messed up here. Let me make this right. That's an easy conversation to have, right? But when that conversation happens and you can say, all right, this won't happen again. Then the next week happens, same thing happens. Then the next week happens, and the same thing happens. Then the next week happens, and the same thing happens. And you keep having these negative conversations. And it's like, you know, you get to the feeling like, I really just don't want to burden this customer with the same negative conversation, because I already know he doesn't like me. I know he doesn't like my product. And listen to what I just said. What's the first thing I said? I know he doesn't like me. That has nothing to do with me. But that's the mistake I made, right? Is I take that stuff personally. I take it like, hey, you're choosing somebody else other than me. When the reality is he's choosing a product that isn't having quality issues over a product that does have quality issues at the time. And I couldn't get that out of my head. So, you know, I presented myself to this customer. I said, hey, what am I doing wrong in this situation to cause you to feel like you need to go with a different company? And that is an absolutely devastating impact on the relationship that I've had with that customer ever since then. And look, I have forgiven myself for that situation. I've learned so much from that situation. And I like to think that there's water under the bridge, but sometimes you don't come back from things like that. And again, talking about forgiveness and perseverance here, you have to kind of have in baseball like a closer's mentality, right? Sales closer's mentality means something than baseball closer's mentality. In this case, I'm talking about baseball closer's mentality, where you have to forget yesterday's blown safe. Because if you don't, you're going to be out of a job, and you're not going to have the livelihood that you need for your family. And unfortunately, that's a mistake that I made that I was able to correct with different customers. And I still am optimistic that I'm able to correct that relationship. It may take a couple more years. And just constantly doing the right thing to show them that, hey, I'm a person of integrity. My company has addressed their issues. Whenever you are ready to partner with my company again, and that you can feel like you can trust me and my company, give me a call. And I'll be here and I'll dedicate everything I have to you. And look, I'm still waiting for that conversation, hopeful for that conversation. And when that opportunity comes, I'm taking that shot. So.
Awesome. Great stuff. Great stuff.
Yeah.
So what do we have coming up with Abbott as far as you and everything going? What do you guys doing? What do you have going on over there?
Well, there's some things that
quarter four coming up. So third
quarter, yeah.
Right.
Yeah. I can tell you, my boss must have called you to put the heat on me. So, look, fourth quarter is coming up. It's obviously one of the biggest quarters out of the year, just because, the books get stuffed for the year and you try to put a bookend and a ribbon on a either successful or less than successful 2020. 2020 is a weird year. Every company that you talk to, Gene, honestly, is going to give you something different because the pandemic has impacted every company differently. Fortunately for Abbott, I happen to work for a company that is, on the front line of diagnostic testing. So Abbott as a whole has been doing very well, sustained largely in part due to the diagnostic division, which I'm very proud to say that. I mean, I'm recording it and sending it to my family members when I see it come up on the news. But, for me, myself, and the rest of the cardiac rhythm management division of Abbott, we've got some, I talked to you a little bit about the quality issues that we had back in 2016. And it has been a long time since we've been able to push out new devices. We went through an acquisition in 2017. Whenever you go through an acquisition, there's a lot of information that gets shared between, the company that's being acquired and the company that's doing the acquiring. And Abbott had their chance to look at St. Jude and say, hey, these may be things that we like from them. These may be things that we didn't like from them. This is the portfolio that we've got coming. These are the tweaks that we want to make to all that stuff that's coming. And here we are in 2020, a year that everybody on my team has been looking forward to because we've had you get some sneak peeks as to what might be coming on the horizon. And this is a year that we've been looking forward to for a very long time. And then the pandemic hit. And it's like, wow, talk about kick us when we're down, but we are pushing out some new product. We've been doing a lot of rigorous training on this new defibrillator that's coming out. That's going to be really awesome. I'm very excited about getting it into the hands of my customers. But, again, we talk about 2016, we talk about 2017, we talk about 2018, we talk about 2019, just years of patchwork and managing issues that we've had to deal with on the fly. And myself, my team around the world, we're a customer-facing entity. We're going up to these customers saying, hey, same face, still here, still want to work with you. You trusted us then, you trust us through the issues, trust us now when we come out with the new stuff. And I will say Abbott is notorious for quality. I've met with some of the internal folk from Abbott. Their quality division there's nobody better in the world. Absolutely nobody better, and certainly nobody better in the industry. And that is so relieving for me. I got a wife and 3 kids at home, Gene. I don't need to lose any more sleep than I have already lost in this life. So I can tell you, if there were those issues going on, I'd cut my 4 hours of sleep down to 2 at best. So, and I don't need that, okay? So you want to ask, what's going on in the fourth quarter? We've got some new stuff coming out. We're doing a lot of training on it. Try to put a bow on this year, and let's say, hey, 2021 hopefully is a little bit better from a global standpoint, but it has caused a lot of camaraderie amongst the team, a lot of trust amongst the team. We've redesigned how we interact. I'm currently sitting in an office right now that I started renting this month because I wanted a place for my team to come and have a little powwow, because when you're a field sales rep, there is no office other than the hospital, right? And we can't meet in the hospitals anymore. You know, we used to be able to go and, have a meeting over coffee down in the cafeteria. We can't do that, with the coronavirus. So I needed a place where I could do that. So I'm constantly trying to turn the wheels, see if I can figure out a way to redesign how we do things. And this is one of the things that's been a hit so far. So I'm locked in for a year for at least 2. So here we are. I hope it works.
Absolutely. It will work. And again, so much great information. That's like, I hope anyone who's watching is taking a notepad, writing it down, because there were so many great things you dropped there. The great Scott Doerr, a champion in wrestling, school, business, sales, and life. Thanks for joining us, Scott. It's great stuff.
Thank you, Gene. Appreciate it.
Absolutely.